What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Base Damage. Hope you're all doing well, and today we're going to be looking at more quintuplets, this time with Itsuki. I actually really like the Itsuki deck that I did before, and this is one of the decks after the movie upgrades that you really don't have to overtly change a whole hell of a lot. We do incorporate the new level 3 in-game in terms of major changes, but it still ends up being an 8 salvage trigger deck, and you still use the level 1 from volume 2. This is such a good fucking card. I don't care what anyone says. So this is definitely more of a upgrade video as opposed to the Miku deck and the even the Itsuki deck were completely different climax combos and setups in terms of what the overall game plan was. So I consider those completely different. Even the Yotsuba deck that we're going to do last is a different setup and a different strategy as opposed to what I was doing with it before. So, but this one's just kind of a typical upgrade, and let's just get right into it. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of things that you have to keep in mind throughout the video. The level 3 count is very high. That being because there's so many cards in here that work off of experience, and the experience effects are very, very good. So you definitely want to keep them keep your experience level high and try to you're basically putting several of the level 3s into your level between typically between 1 and 2 if you can help it. So let's start with the first one, this one being very very interesting. Is a 3/2 8k New Year Itsuki Nakano. If you have 4 or more characters with Itsuki in their name, this gets minus a level in hand. So this works very good for the waifu decks. This one has 2 interesting effects that you do need to realize. The second effect has 2 things in one. It's kind of crazy. First off, it's on play, you get to heal 1. But in addition to it, at the end of the this gets the ability until the end of the opponent's next turn. At the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, choose one of your opponent's characters. It cannot become reversed until the end of the turn. So that's basically supposed to be kind of a little bit of a drawback. But typically, you could just target your opponent's back row and just not give a shit. So it's kind of whatever. And then it has the ability up to 1 time per turn when you use an act ability. You have another quintuplets characters. This gets plus 3,000 power until end of turn. I can talk. I can do words. So basically, the biggest thing for this is any backup in the deck, they all count as act abilities. So whenever you use a backup on any of your characters, this is going to get a buff and bump itself back up to an 11k on your opponent's turn. Obviously, there's several act abilities that you can play on your turn as well. So this is always going to be big. Even though it drops down to, even though it's only an 8k, typically, it's very deceiving. Your opponent needs to keep in mind that you're going to have backups. And that's going to be a thing that more than likely they're going to forget. So, really cool card. But you can also get away with just tossing one of these into your level at level 2. When you go to level 2, if you can help it, toss one of these into your level. So 1, you can play other copies of it, but then you have the experience for, say, this card, Realized Feelings Itsuki Nakano. It's a 3/2 9/5. When this is placed on stage from your hand, look at up to 3 cards from the top of your deck. Choose 1 card amongst them, put it into your hand, put the rest into your waiting room. Good way to try to dig for your climax combo. And this gets plus 1,500 power till end of turn. It puts itself to an 11k. With the climax, it's going to be a 12k minimum before any other buffs. But you don't have to reverse with this. That's kind of the cool thing. On attack, if ideal image of a teacher, which is... I decided to pick the very nice overframe rare art for it. So, just saying. It's kind of cool. If you have ideal image of a teacher in your climax area and the total level of the cards in your level is 6 or higher. So you have to have 6 or higher. You may pay the cost, which is discarding 3 cards, which seems hefty, but this deck can deal with it. If you do, deal 3 damage to your opponent. Look at up to 2 cards from the top of your opponent's deck. Choose up to 2 cards from amongst them, put them on top of their deck in any order, and put the rest into their waiting room. So how this goes is you get to swing, first off, you get to burn your opponent. You try to make some damage stick. Then you get to look at the top 2 cards. If you see there's any climaxes amongst those, you pitch those to the waiting room, and then you are still trying to deal another 3 damage on top of that. So you're going burn 3, try to get rid of climaxes, 3 more damage incoming before triggers. So she's able to put out a lot. And this deck, again, you can retain hand advantage very fucking easy in this deck. So yeah, definitely feel this is a 4 of. You can get away with putting one of these into your level at level 1, because your level 1 also has an experience based effect, so you need to have those in your level. So you can sack one of these or one of these other level 3s, it really doesn't matter. But the next one is Kind Gaze Itsuki Nakano. It's a 3/2/8/5. If you have 4 or more Quints, it gets minus a level in your hand. If all of your characters are Quints, this gets 1500 power and the following ability. During your turn, this card gets 1000 power. Very nice. So as long as you have only Quints, this is a 10k. During your turn, it's an 11. When this is placed on stage from your hand, look at up to X cards from the top of your deck. Choose up to 1 card amongst them, put it into your hand. Put the rest into your waiting room, and X is equal to the number of Quints you have on the field. You get to dig for your climax combos and everything. This is very nice. Just wanted to include this just to have a little bit extra digging power to try to get the salvages to do your combos. Then we have 3 copies of Studying in Glasses Itsuki Nakano. Shoutouts to anyone who has the glasses fetish. Say 3/2/10k. If your waiting room has 2 or less climaxes, this gets minus a level while in your hand. I was looking at the attack because it said 10k. When this is placed on stage from your hand, you can put a character with Itsuki in its card name from your hand to the waiting room. If you do, return the top card of your clock to your hand. It doesn't come up a whole bunch. Being able to heal to hand is very nice. Especially because you're like, if you know you're going to play this card, you can purposely clock a card that you want to get back. That you're like, oh, I'm not going to miss this card because it's going to come right back to my fucking hand in a second here. So, very nice. And when you use an act ability, it gets a buff equal to the number of Itsuki characters you have on field times 500. Equal to other, I should say. So it can get a max of plus 2k. But once again, just gets nice and big. Heals to your hand. Just really good. I like it. So 1, 2, 3 of your level 3s are early playable in some capacity, whether it's for Itsukis, 2 or less climaxes. You got a lot of ways to play your level 2 game. Because of that, this deck doesn't really need level 2s as much. The only level 2 in here is going to be this Belligerent Itsuki Nakano. It is a 2/1 2500 backup. When you use this card's backup, you can pay 2 and sack a character. If you do, choose one of your opponent's characters with a level higher than your opponent's level and put it into your opponent's waiting room. So you get to, it's an anti-change, very good. However, something to keep in mind, one of your backups requires you to have a full field to become, this level 0 counts as a backup if you have a full field, so just be careful. If you use this and you have to sack, make certain you have one of the other level 1s here, which is another backup, which is really good, in your hand that you can use. We'll get more to the math in a little bit here with some of the other cards, but continue along. Now starting with the level 1s, Chauffeured to School Itsuki Nakano is a 1/1 2k backup. When you use this card's backup, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a Quintuplets character, add it to your hand, then discard 1 card. So I just like the hand filtering. It helps you dig a little bit more to some potential cancels and everything. And this deck lets you add a lot of cards to hand, so you can do a lot of really nice hand filtering with this deck, so I very much like the filtering aspect of it. Then we have 4 copies of Unable to Be Honest Itsuki Nakano. If all of your characters have Itsuki, this gains 500 power for each of your characters with Itsuki. So it goes from a 105k, each other Itsuki, so it would gain 2k. It becomes, with a full field, a free 107k. Offensively and defensively. I thought this was just too good not to include, so definitely felt this was good to have. Then 4 copies of the fucking backbone of this deck. This is such an OP card. I have gone on the record multiple times to say I don't like experience-based effects. I'm willing to give this one a pass because the experience is not exorbitant. You don't have to reverse. You just have to have an experience of 2 or higher, which is really, really easy to do. I'm honestly not worried about meeting the experience requirement. There's so many other experience effects that are just, it just cost way too fucking much. This does not cost that much, and the plussing of it is so fucking good. Anyway, 1045, Budding Trust Itsuki Nakano. Remember that name for the next card we're about to show. Up to 1 time per turn when you use an act, this gains 1500 power till end of turn. So if you use a backup, it's already going to go back up to a 6k during your opponent's turn. So this is one of the few cards I don't care about it being weak defensively, quote unquote, because it's just going to shoot right back up the moment you use a backup, which is really, really fucking nice. So it can get really big offensively as well with the Climax combo. It's going to be a 7k minimum before anything else gives it buffs. But it has an experience effect when visiting her mother's grave, which we chose the other Overframe rare. Just figured it'd be nice, to showcase it. If that is in play, on attack, if you have a experience of 2 or higher, you can discard 1 card. If you do, look at up to 3 cards from the top of your deck. Choose up to 3 code word, which is an event that we don't run, but just stating it for sake of argument, or quintuplets characters amongst them. Reveal them, add them to your hand. If you just reveal 3 quintuplets off of this, you get to add all 3 to your hand. That's why I say you run so many multiple copies of your cards that you can just get away with so much shenanigans of just being able to add near about play out your entire hand, and then just 1 or 2 of these just completely refills your hand 9 times out of 10, which is just hilarious to me. There's more to it than just that. We have other card effects in here that are very prevalent in the big hand size, and we'll get to that in a second. But this is a very good level 1. I cannot sing the praises enough. We have 2 copies of Hearty Appetite, Itsuki Nakano. It's a 1/0/25. When this card is placed on stage from your hand, you can discard a card to search your deck for a Budding Trust Itsuki Nakano. This is from the movie set, and this lets you just search for this. I was like, yes, please. So add it to your hand, and it has an act ability. You get to pay 1, sack this card, put the top 2 cards of your deck into your waiting room, choose 1 level X or lower character in your waiting room, return it to your hand. X is equal to the total level of those cards that you milled. 9 times out of 10, though, you're going to use this to set up for one of these level 0s over here if you don't already have them, or maybe get back your backups or something along those lines. But this is just really good to get your engine started, and then you can still salvage back some other stuff. You've used doing so uses an act ability, which makes your if the level 1 Itsuki's on field, or any other card that's like, oh, when you use an act, it gains a buff. All of that goes off from that, so it's really good. This is just serves like dual purposes. It's really fucking good. That is it for the level 1s, though. We do have some neat little tech choices of just like 1, 2, 2, 2 copies in here, but they all kind of come together very well. So let's go with the first level 0 is Conversation with Dad Itsuki Nakano. It's a 0/500. It has a climax swap effect. When this is placed on stage from hand, you can pay 1 pitch a climax to salvage back a climax from your waiting room to your hand to make certain you have what you need when you need. Then it has an act ability to tap 2 of your quints, choose a character. It gains 3k power till end of turn. So just, once again, shit gets big. This isn't one of the main ones you're going to be using for your act abilities every single turn, but just having this is a nice little extra, little bit extra on the cake. So you can bump this up to like 2 copies or something depending on your preference, just stating. 2 copies of Quintuplet Trails Itsuki Nakano. This is from the movie set. It's a 0/2k. Up to 1 time per turn when you use an act ability, this gets +1 soul till end of turn. It's there. It's kind of a neat little thing. When this is placed on stage from your hand, you can pay 1 and put an Itsuki from your waiting room to the bottom of your clock. If you do, search your deck for up to 1 level 1 or lower character with Itsuki in its name. Even more ways to get to Budding Trust to get the combo going. It's just such a good, between the level 1, the level 0, you're able to get these to hand, no problem. So, definitely was good. You can bump this up to more, but 2 seems to do pretty decent, honestly. 2 copies of Glutton Itsuki Nakano. You could just drop the 2 copies of this if you want to run a playset of Quintuplet Trails. But I wanted to add this in. It's a 0/1k. It's a 500 assist in front from the trial deck, too. When you play a climax, choose one of your characters, it gets 1,000 power till end of turn. So just a little bit extra buff. You don't need to reverse with any combos in this deck. I just thought it was nice to have. Like I said, you can drop this overall. But I also wanted to add in a couple more green cards, mostly to make certain that you could early play the level 3. So, just stating. Then we have 2 copies of Flowers of Gratitude Itsuki Nakano. This is one of the cards someone told me in the last Itsuki deck profile. that there was another card coming out that had this very first line right here. The Brainstorm over here has the same effect. Continuous. You get +1 to the limit of number of cards in your hand. So it's really, really nice to have like one of each of these in the back row. And then then your maximum hand size is going to be 9 at the end of the turn. You don't really see this effect on a lot of other cards. Like, I don't really think I've seen this on any other sets in English Weiss. There might be some in JP, but you don't get to see this a whole hell of a lot. And someone pointed it out in the last video that this was coming in the movie set. So thank you very much. I do not remember your name off the top of my head. I apologize, but thank you very much for pointing that out, because I was definitely looking for this the moment I started reviewing the set. So then we have 2 different act abilities depending on what you need. First, it's a pay 1, rest this card, choose one of your quints. It gets the ability until end of turn. When the battle opponent becomes reversed, you can salvage a character from your waiting room. Now, you don't need to reverse from any of the other combos in the deck, but if you know for a fact you're going to be able to get over something, this is really nice to be able to do to get back something you've already milled. So this is just a very nice little effect. But also, it has an experience, because you're already aiming to put like most of your level 3s into your level. You can get this very, very early. It is a experience of a 3 or higher. Tap this. Choose one of your characters. It gains 2k power till end of turn. Very sizable buff. So I do like having that in just as an option. And once it's an act ability that you can do for free. So just very, very good. You can bump this up to 3 if you wish. Like I said, if you end up dropping this level 2 here altogether, if you don't mind the little bit of a lower green count, you can just nix this. I would say maybe bump this up to 3 and then bump the Quintuplet Trails up to 3 and you're good. Then we have 3 copies of the Brainstormer, but it also has the continuous effect of +1 to the limit of number of cards in your hand. So you definitely want this, especially because the level 3 does expend so much from hand, but also the level 1 adds so much to hand. It makes it so you do not have to, you can add so many and not have to discard anything at the end of the turn, which is fucking insane to me. It also has, during your turn, if your hand size is 5 or more, very easy to pull off with this deck, all of your characters get 500 power. Because this has the assist, as I say, it's another reason you could just nix this altogether. I just wanted to have something extra. Pay 1, rest this for the Brainstorm. Mill 4 for each climax milled with a salvage trigger, which is the entire climax lineup. For each one, you get to search your deck for a quint and add it to your hand. Just a very good card. I picked up more copies of this recently just because it's a good card. 2 copies of Unparalleled Beauty Itsuki Nakano. Up to 1 time per turn when you use an act, this gains 2k power for the turn. When this card's battle opponent becomes reversed, you can choose another quint's character, rest it, and move it to an open position of your backstage. Then the last ability is an act where you can tap one of your other quint's characters, and she gains 1000 power till end of turn. So you can make her very big. You don't particularly need to. Like, let's say you do it one time, she becomes a 25, then her first ability pops off, she becomes a 45. You're going to guaranteed reverse like most any level 0 at this point, and be able to get the clean cut effect where you get to save one of your characters and move it to the backstage. So very neat, but I didn't feel a playset was necessary, mostly because of the next card, but 2 in here definitely works. Then the last one is this level 0, Gentle and Sincere Itsuki Nakano. I'm going to state the second effect first. This is a good starting card. At the beginning of your opponent's attack phase, if there's a character facing this, you can move it to an open position of your center stage. So it's a runner, really good. But the big thing is if you have 5 or more quints characters on the field, this gets a backup while in your hand. It becomes a 2k backup while it's in your hand. So it just, meaning this deck has 8 backups. As long as you have a full field, this is just very nice. It's really cool to have extra to be able to use for the act abilities, or for the effects that require you to use an act. So on your opponent's turn, you can have just as much of a defense as you will have an offense, because your shit's going to get big on your turn. But it still can stay big on your opponent's turn, which is just something your opponent's not really going to be able to like anticipate every single game. Like, they're not going to play against a bunch of other people that have this same thing. So it's just a really cool thing. It's just a really cool mechanic to work around in my mind. So then we have 4 copies of Visiting Our Mother's Grave, like we showed before. Just really nice for the overframe rare art. And for this one as well, just that smile. Ideal image of a teacher, 4 copies of that. And that is going to be it for the deck. Yeah, I fucking love the fucking Quintuplets decks. And this is one of my favorites. This is not my most favorite, but this became one of my favorites. And like I said, I don't typically like experience-based effects, but this fucking card right here is too strong. This thing needs to be fucking nerfed. I love it. I joke, it doesn't need to be nerfed, but I just think it's really, really good. With that, thank y'all very much for watching. We got one more deck for the Quintuplets to round it out, and sadly, it's not the greatest in the world. But regardless, check it out when it comes out, and we will see y'all on the flip side. Peace out for now.